EJB stands for Enterprise Java Beans. This is the layer where all your business logic is going to reside. So let's see a diagram which I have seen previously. So now that we have done a fair bit about JPA, let's move on to the next layer, which is a service layer. Business logic is going to reside in this layer. So whether you are manipulating the database, sending mails, sending messages to messaging queue, all your business logic is going to reside in this layer. Now question can come to your mind that what's the purpose of this layer? Why do you need this layer? Can't you just create objects and write methods in them? What's the benefit of this layer? Basically, a Java EE server, or you can say the container which contains these EJBs, provides certain facilities to the EJBs. So facilities like transaction, security, pooling, concurrency, timers, interceptors, many other features are directly provided out of the box for your EJBs. Now, there are two categories of EJBs. One is session beans and the second is message driven beans. Message driven beans are not going to be discussed in this chapter. They are going to be discussed in the chapter on JMS. So right now we are going to concentrate only on this part. So session beans are of three types: stateless, stateful and singleton. For stateless session beans, the container usually maintains a pool of beans. So when a client invokes a method on this bean, one of the instances is randomly picked up and its method gets called. Now next time if the client invokes another method on the bean, maybe some other instance may be picked up for servicing the client. So this leads us to a very important conclusion. You shouldn't save state on a stateless session bean. What I mean by that is you shouldn't be doing something like this. You shouldn't be creating a field and saving values in it. Why is that so? Because let's say for the first time the client invoked a method on the bean, this instance was picked up by the container. Next time when the client invokes another method, maybe this instance gets picked up. So this instance doesn't have access to the fields of this instance. That's why you shouldn't rely on saving state in a stateless session bean. Now you may be thinking, if the bean can't store the state, then what's the use of using stateless session bean? Basically, most of the business operations are singular. For example, sending mails or logging in a user, most of them don't involve saving any kind of state. Stateless session beans are the real workhorses of EJB. Now, stateful session bean are client oriented. There is one instance of a bean for each client. So for example, client A can invoke one method and save some state. Now next time it calls another method, it can retrieve the same state. Now another difference between stateful session beans and stateless session bean is there is no pool of instances. So basically, an instance is created just before the client gets serviced. Another major difference between stateful session bean and stateless session bean is in stateful session bean, the client is supposed to issue a command for removing this bean. The container doesn't do it on its own, whereas in stateless beans, the container manages the pool. So for singleton session bean, from the name itself, you can understand that there is only one instance of this bean per application server. So all the client requests are targeted to the same bean. From the diagram itself, you can understand that two or more clients can be accessing the bean at the same time. So some concurrency features are available for singleton session bean, which we'll see later on. Till the last diagram, we were using the word client, but who exactly are these clients? Who can call methods on these beans, or who can invoke methods on these beans? So let's consider this diagram once again. So let's consider one bean in your service layer. This bean can be stateful, stateless or singleton. Now this bean can be accessed by other beans in this layer, or they can be accessed by this layer, or they can be accessed by remote clients like Java desktop apps. So basically EJBs can access each other, or the web layer can access these beans. So when the beans reside within the application server, they are known as local clients, or when they are outside the server, they are known as remote clients.